Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. So today's guest is Michelle von Kalben, and you may recognise Michelle from some of her work she's been doing in the NFT space. So she's kindly joined me today for an interview on all things NFTs and the art of storytelling. So Michelle, how are you today?
I'm doing great. I actually had quite a few calls with some artists today just to chat about NFTs, art, and everything. That was a lot of fun.
And when did you get into the NFT space?
I think it was like towards February. I think I was just like seeing something about it on Instagram because of an artist that I was following, and yeah, then I think it happens quite quickly that you get invested into something that sounds so interesting. So I just tried to learn more and more about it, and then I believe end of March I minted my first NFT.
Now, one of the things, I mean, the NFT space is just blowing up right now, isn't it? And it's a phenomenal space with so many artists. One of the things that we sort of see a lot, and I know you do very well, in fact, I've used you as an example on stages in Clubhouse and various others, is around story and sharing story. Now, one of your pieces, the piece that you released, was that your first one? That
Which one are you talking about? The inner battle piece?
Yeah, was that your
That was
first?
actually my second piece, but my
Okay.
first 3D art. Yeah.
Okay. Now, with that particular one, you advertised that quite well because you showed behind the scenes, you showed the sort of making of, and you sort of pulled all that together. But so, what you came into the NFT space in February? What were you doing before that?
Before that, I was focusing a lot on social media already, but also I was doing a lot of creative work. I've always been a photographer, or what means always, since 5 years. And yeah, I was working with brands, taking images for them and editing them, and some clients, but I was also doing creative work like website design and all of this stuff. And yeah, I was just trying to build my personal brand further on other social media platforms like Instagram. And I started probably like 1.5 years ago with that. And that has already opened so many amazing opportunities for me. And I got to know a lot of cool and like-minded people, which opened like a whole new world for me.
What is it that got you into the NFT space? Like, obviously, it's so new, but what attracted you to it in the first place?
Well, I think what is great, first off, but that of course I didn't know before, the community, that I will talk about it later on. But what got me really interested is that I can completely focus on creating the art that I absolutely love to create, and at the same time sort of like get appreciation and compensation for it. Because with the creative work that I was doing before, of course I love doing it, like I'm very, very happy that I get to do what I love on a daily basis. But client work always requires some sort of guidelines. So I wasn't completely creatively free. But now with the NFT space, I like, yeah, as I said, I can completely focus on creating a story, creating art that I'm in love with. And yeah, that's what made me happy.
So, are you a full-time NFT artist now?
Well, I still do some client work and web design on the side, but I definitely want to try to focus as much as I can on it right now.
So, how long does, on average, an NFT piece take for you to create?
Inner Battle, which was my first 3D animation, probably took over 100 hours to create. And I think the last one that I released also around 100 to 150 hours. And I think first of the reason is, of course, I pick very complicated projects, and I only started 3D about like 3 months ago. And that's why I still have so much to learn. And I always start, or like I always have an idea in my head that is sort of way too complex to make come to life for my current skill set. But I hate limiting myself with my skill set. So I just jump right in. And then I face so many problems along the way. And that takes me a lot of time to then figure out. But in the end, it eventually works out. And then I can be really proud of the piece. And that's also how I learned a lot about 3D art along the way.
And what 3D program do you use?
Cinema 4D.
Okay. And what
Yeah.
was you what in a battle? You was using Cinema 4D and then was using After Effects, or
Oh, what did you say? I'm sorry.
do you use After Effects as well, or what?
Yeah. I like render everything out as basically image sequences, and then I edit it in After Effects, and sometimes I also add effects there, but most of it is done in Cinema 4D. Just the color grading is then done in After Effects.
So what's your process then from when you come up with an idea? Because obviously on Instagram you've got loads of photography and loads of beautiful images that you have on there. Then you come into the NFT space, which then brings you into sort of animation and 3D and bringing that process. Talk me through your process of In a Battle. How did that come about, and what was the process in order to make that particular piece? Because that piece sold recently. What did that sell for?
What was the last thing?
In a Battle sold for 3 ETH.
Um, well, so I think it's good to start in the beginning because I started off with photography, and I still like it's one of my biggest passions. But then I eventually realized that it sort of limits myself a little bit with the like I'm a nature photographer, so with the conditions that I get or the places that I can visit. So that's when I started mixing it a bit with digital art, because digital art sort of allowed me to make my ideas come to life in a better way. As an example, we were staying in like a glass igloo in northern Lapland where we're supposed to see the northern lights, but when we were there it was raining all day long. But I really had the image in my head of like the glass igloo with the northern lights, and that like digital art helped me to make this come to life. And then like as my journey went on, I wanted to tell a better story. I didn't only want to have images that tell a story, but I think videos help me to get my message through in a better way. And that's when I started thinking about 3D art. And it was actually quite a spontaneous decision, but I early on realized that this is what I can tell like the best stories with, because I can create a whole storyline out of it. And I think like when I create a piece, I'm always thinking about the idea before what story it has to tell. And usually it's something mindset related and something about personal growth, because that's what I can most relate on based on my personal story. And yeah, since I'm sort of a nature and landscape artist, I always try to keep it that way. So I always think like what elements in nature I can use to bring that message through. And yeah, that's how it sort of then comes to life.
So talk us through In a Battle, because that's the one that was like a hell and then switched back to nature, didn't
Yeah.
it? So talk us through that one. Did you storyboard that? Did you sketch it out beforehand? I mean, what was the idea behind that piece?
Well, so actually I don't sketch because I'm bad with that, but I like really plan the idea through in my head. And yeah, when I created Inner Battle, I'm not sure if you can display it there, but it was basically a hell scene, or it looked like with lava flowing and a phoenix flying and then a volcano in the background. And then it turned, and then the exact same scene appeared, but completely peaceful, with grass, with a butterfly, with a river flowing. And when I created it, I just wanted to sort of really display what is happening in everyone's mind, that there's always sort of the negative thoughts and a destructive side within each one of us, but also a positive side and a positive mindset and positive feelings. And I think it's sort of like we need to balance it. We can't really avoid the negative feelings. And I wanted to sort of display that balance by the scenes changing. And that's also why it has been an endless loop of turning, because we will always go through the hardships, but then we will always move on to the positive thoughts. And we just need to learn to coexist and focus a bit more on the positive sides, but still like appreciating the negative ones. Because if we wouldn't have bad days, then we wouldn't really appreciate the good ones. And without fear, there wouldn't be courage. And the list goes on and on. And yeah, I'm really proud of how it turned out, because at this point I was doing 3D for maybe like a month or so. So,
And for those of you who haven't actually seen In a Battle, I'll put it in the link below, or we'll see it on the screen so that you can see it. On that particular piece, when you launched that, because you launched that on Foundation, didn't you?
yeah, I launched it on Foundation. Exactly.
So when you launched that, did you pre-plan what your marketing strategy would have been, or how you were going to advertise that? Because obviously when you released that piece on Foundation, you actually supported that piece with a number of stories of you and the process and how you made it. Now, obviously, that's how I got to see the piece, and I know a lot of people got to see the piece when they were bidding for it. But was that something that you'd already planned to do, or is that something that sort of just evolved after you released it?
Well, I think for the first ever piece I minted, I didn't do it. But for the second one, just because I like put so much work into it and it had such an important message that I wanted to get through, I just had to create a video about me explaining it, because I think like the key part to those type of things with a bigger meaning is that people can actually resonate with it. And if I don't explain how it's done, or like what I mean with certain elements, then I think it's harder to reach the audience. And I just wanted to like people to get to know me a bit better, and like also share a bit about my personal story, because that's, I think, at least for me, that's what art makes, or what makes art more meaningful. If I know the story and if I can sort of then realize it in the visuals. Yeah. And
I think that's what's really interesting with art, and I suppose the NFT space as well, because in traditional art spaces you don't normally get to meet or communicate or speak with the artist, or not as long. But in the NFT space you actually build an amazing community, and although a lot of people hide behind avatars, a big challenge for people is to get in front of the camera. So when did you start getting in front of the camera, and how did that come about?
I think it was exactly February last year. I still remember that when I wanted to take social media and everything a bit more seriously, I knew that I sort of had to learn to show my face and to show the people who actually follow me who I am, because like in the end of the day, they're not only following images, they are following a human being. And yeah, I remember it that like I was at my boyfriend's place and he had to go for a walk, and I recorded it like 30 times. So yeah, just to say it here, like it's uncomfortable for everyone in the beginning. I know exactly like what everybody's going through who does it for the first time. And like I would have never thought that I would get like even slightly comfortable by doing it. But when I started getting out of my comfort zone a bit more and seeing the positive responses of people, like they were so supportive and so amazing, I was immediately encouraged to do it more often. And that sort of showed me then that it brought like, it opened many doors for me, and it brought a lot of opportunities. And that's how I sort of got a little bit addicted to pushing myself out of the comfort zone more and more. And nowadays it's like, it's still a little bit awkward at times to talk in front of the camera, but it's oftentimes just a lot of fun to do it. And yeah, just see the responses.
And I think that's the big thing, isn't it? People coming out of their comfort zones, because a lot of people are scared to actually be in front of the camera, and they're concerned of what people may think. But you've got to be prolific, not perfect now. And Richard's in the Star Wars meeting room. He's just putting his hand up. He hates being in front of the camera. Yeah, and I think you just got to get out there, because I think what you'll see, there's lots of artists at the moment that are coming into the FT space who are spending an amazing amount of time on some beautiful pieces of work, and then they just post it and then hope that the art sells itself. But really, like you said, people need to resonate with the artist. They need to understand the story. And even though with art it is in the eye of the beholder, it really helps to understand the meaning and the why and how the artist created it. So being able to film that story is perfect, really. And you don't need a big setup. You don't need to do it perfect. I mean, you said the first time you did it, you recorded 30 times. Do you just do straight recordings now, or do you pre-record some of your?
Well, if I actually, it's funny because if I film myself with my camera, if I set it up and put the lights everywhere, then I need way more tries if I would just casually film something, because then I want it to be like really, really perfect in any kind of way. But yeah, with stories or something like that, I usually only record once, maybe twice nowadays.
And that's because you've got used to it and covered it. Because the more you do it, the better you become, right? So.
Yeah. And also I don't care that much about like small mistakes anymore if I only share it on Twitter or on Instagram in the stories.
So with your piece, so now you've just released another piece. Is that's currently for auction? So you had in a battle that was sold. What was that sold for?
In a battle was sold for 5.5 ETH. The reserve price was 2.5.
5.5. So that and with ETH prices, and that was actually at the peak at ETH as well. So that's a fantastic sale. And I think the success from that was also the fact that you did share the video, you did share the story, and actually you communicated with people when they were bidding through the process as well. So if they didn't win the bid, you said you haven't won the bid. So you kept in touch with what was a potential buyer or customer, because it was more of you were having the business mind from your previous experiences. And you've just launched another piece now, and is that currently on Foundation?
Yeah, it is also on Foundation. It's called Growth. Now that I think about it, it would have been better if it's called Inner Growth, because it would have connected a bit better. But yeah, it focuses more on the positive side of things, because with Inner Battle, the negative and the positive side were sort of prevented equally. But with Growth, I wanted to actually first show both sides, the negative and the positive one. But then that the positive one sort of overcomes the negative one. And that I did by like having two sides again, but in one sequence. So the positive, or like the peaceful side with grass and everything, and then the negative one with volcano, lava. And yeah, it was separated by a bridge, and then a horse was walking across, or a unicorn was walking across, and everything on the right destructive side started to grow. And yeah, that was just like supposed to like show the personal growth of every person that goes through hardships, because I believe that in the challenging times you actually grow the most if you are aware of that you are in a challenging time. I think the first step is awareness, and once you are aware of your current state, you are able to progress as a person so much.
Awesome. So what if obviously now, I mean, in the NFT space, you'd be a seasoned artist now, because although it's been around a while, it's very young, very new space. What advice would you give someone who is coming into this space? Because I know that I get a lot of questions, and a lot of people ask me, how can I market, how can I advertise? But what's the one piece of advice you would give someone who's coming into this space?
I think my number one advice at this point is just share your story, because like more and more artists are entering the space, and there are like thousands of incredibly talented artists and art pieces. And I think you sort of need to learn ways to stand out a bit more. And I think sharing your story, showing your face, building a true connection with people is like one of the most important things, because of course, like most importantly, it is about art, and I'm super passionate about art. And I think like if you're not, then this might also show in the art that you present. But I think we should neglect the business side or the marketing side, because this is also a very important part. If you try to monetize something, like business and marketing is really important, and like that doesn't make your art less genuine or yourself less genuine. It's just that you want to share more and build connections, and yeah, that's about it.
And you have to. And I think one thing I've noticed a lot in this space, a lot of artists get stressed if they haven't sold their work straight away, because they think it will be a quick sell, or they'll make money really quickly, and then they get quite discouraged, and mindset plays a big part because they start questioning their own ability. But it doesn't mean they're not good, it just means they haven't found their buyer right now. But a lot of people want to either burn a piece because it hasn't sold, or they start questioning their own ability, even though it's a new space. And the the storytelling helps. What else do you do other than the story? Because you said that you've got like a customer journey. We talk about customer journeys in terms of this space. You have the story, and then on the sale, do you do a certificate of authenticity, or you had a physical certificate for your courses?
Yeah, I wanted to do something a bit extra. So of course, like I wanted to send the collector print, but I also wanted to do something like a bit more special. So I created like a certificate of authenticity. And there I added like a QR code that basically brings you to the page where like it guarantees that he's the owner. And then I packed it really nicely in like an old letter case. I'm not quite sure. Briefcase. No, I don't know the word right now, but then I put like a really nice stamp with wax that it looks like a bit vintage. So I put a lot of time and effort just into that because I want to make it as personal as possible. And what I also think is really great next to like those physical or materialistic things is that I also had then a Zoom call with both collectors, and it's just great to connect and to get to know more about their values and why they actually chose to purchase your piece, because of course this is a lot of Ethereum involved, and it's just great to know like what encouraged them and what motivated them and inspired them.
So you keep in touch with your collectors, which that in itself is really important as well, because a lot of people actually, once something's been purchased, they don't actually contact anybody, or they don't say thank you, and they don't keep that connection, which is crazy really, because collectors and buyers may buy more or buy again, and it's a lot easier to keep existing customers. So what's the future for you now then? So obviously you've launched your new piece. Have you got any other projects that you're working on?
Well, I'm just currently creating a new piece, but what was really funny, I'm not sure if you have seen it, but I'm like, I would love to join Super Rare. I'm inspired by their team and their artists and like the whole platform, and I either want to focus more on one-on-one NFTs and also do it a bit more like intentional, the releases of my NFTs, and I think that's a great platform for it. And instead of, I mean, I also applied online. They have like an online application form, but they must receive like hundreds a day. And then it's, of course, impossible to sort of stand out. So I thought, like, what could I do that is a bit like unique and special? And I was super scared to release it again. That was something where I had to push myself out of my comfort zone, but I sort of did like a public application video for Super Rare. And not only like a basic one, just filming myself, which they wanted, but I did it a bit more special, sharing my story and like creating nice visuals. And the response has been really, really crazy. I haven't heard personally back from Super Rare yet, so I'm still hoping. But yeah, just to see how many artists and creators support me with that, and like they cheered me up and shared it, and it was so positively overwhelming to see. Yeah, that was the one that I was working on before now.
Okay. So Super Rare, if you're listening, Michelle wants to be on your platform, and you'd be crazy not to put her on there. So get her on there. That was crazy. Maybe we should tag the CEO. In fact, he was doing he did a post the other day around this. So I'll have to check, see if I'm connected, but we'll post to him. So with that in mind, I'm just going to ask you 3 questions that I generally ask my guests. First one is, what advice would you give your younger self?
To my younger self? I think don't care about what other people say or think of me, because that was something that has been holding me back for a very long time. And also, like, don't think too far ahead, because what always held me back of like being a photographer, being a digital artist, and making that like a full-time career was that I was so afraid of the future, that it's sort of unstable, unsafe financially. But I wasn't thinking of like 5 years in the future. I was thinking of like when I'm 80 or something. And I think we should focus more on the moment and more on like trying to make the best out of like the next years. And then like with every year that passes, you learn so much and grow so much that like in 1 year I might already know like so much more than I do now. And yeah, I think just do your thing and take calculated risks. So don't just take risks like if you don't have any other vision or idea in mind, don't quit your job, don't drop out of college or whatever. But yeah, just take calculated risks, be brave, and work as much as you can.
So what? My second question leads me to my second question. What does success look like for you?
Can you repeat that?
What does success look like for you?
Being fulfilled with life. And I think there, like that has like a lot of different factors in it. I want to have a loving relationship, which I have currently, so that's great. And I want to live an as free life as possible. I don't want to be limited in a way. That's also why I became an entrepreneur. I can sort of structure my day myself, and I can decide when I go on a holiday, and I can just like I earn as much as I put work into it. So I'm basically the boss of everything. And yeah, that makes me really happy that I have such a free life. And also success means for me that I'm able to make a living with my passion, which I'm super grateful for. And I think like for some people it's way harder based on like where they come from. So I'm definitely also privileged with that it's like a bit easier here in Germany. But yeah, like there are a lot of different factors, but probably like location independence, time independence, a loving relationship, yeah, creating and like doing what I love for a living, all of that combined is success for me.
So my last question then is, what do you want to be when you grow up? What would you like to be when you grow up?
What I would like to be when I grow up? That's a funny question. That's a cute question. Well, it sort of connects to the last question, but I would just like to have a fulfilled life. That's basically it. Like I don't want to become this and that. I just want to like go into the direction that I feel like is right for me, that can change in 5 years. So I don't really want to limit myself there. But yeah, I'm just enjoying everything that I do right now, and I will keep going as long as I can make a living with it and as long as I enjoy it.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Michelle, for sharing your story and some top tips for some of the new people coming into the space. If you don't follow Michelle, make sure you do. You'll be crazy if you don't. The NFT community is phenomenal. And Michelle, I mean, it really is phenomenal. You make so many friends in this space. It's like no other. It really is like no other. So I'm sure you'll be back on again. Hopefully this is all recording, because we were saying our camera broke the other day. But thank you for joining us, and for everybody, keep safe, keep well, and as always, stay awesome.
Thanks a lot for having me. It was great to have a chat.